Pokémon moves tend to have a lot of changes between generations, whether that be changes to base power, accuracy, power points, or secondary effects. However, in this video, I will not be addressing any of those changes at all, but rather the changes made to their distribution, specifically focused on nerfs. Moves are generally made learnable in 5 different ways, those being moves learned through level up, moves learned through breeding, moves learned from picnics, moves learned from special events, and moves learned through any teachable method. There are other ways, but these are the main ones. Moves learned through level up are pretty self-explanatory. They're moves that a Pokemon learns naturally just by having its level increased. Moves learned through breeding are moves that are passed down from a parent Pokemon to an offspring Pokemon. Moves learned from picnics are exclusive to Scarlet and Violet, and they happen when a Pokemon is holding a Mirror Herb and has an empty move slot with another Pokemon in the party that has a passable move. Moves learned from special events are also pretty self-explanatory. They are moves given to Pokemon from limited time events. And teachable moves include all TMs, TRs, HMs, and Move Tutor moves, which make up the majority of changes to learnable Pokemon moves that I will be discussing in this video. When counting up the Pokemon that get these moves in each generation, it was actually a lot harder than I thought it would be. Because how do I count regional variants or any Pokemon with multiple forms, especially when some form differences have different move pools and others don't? How do I account for the fact that some Pokemon were taken out of the game starting in Sword and Shield? Or what about newly introduced Pokemon that are now able to learn a move? Well, here's the metric I settled on that I feel is the most fair on being a good representation of how a move's distribution was changed, while also not being so pedantic that it takes me forever to calculate the stats. Each move's distribution will be calculated by taking what percent of Pokemon can learn that move out of the total Pokemon in that game for every generation of games, excluding Let's Go, BDSP, and Legends, as these games had a very limited competitive scene, or no competitive scene at all, and using these moves in a competitive sense is the focus of this video. Thus, the numbers for Gen 8 will exclusively be from Sword and Shield post-DLC, and the numbers for Gen 9 will exclusively be from Scarlet and Violet post-DLC. The numerator will be the total number of distinct Pokemon move pools that can learn the move, and the denominator is the total number of Pokemon in the national dex from that game. By distinct move pools, this means that if Arceus can learn the move, it counts as 1 instead of 18, since Arceus' move pool does not change between forms. If both forms of Indeedee can learn the move, this counts as 2, since Indeedee's move pool does change between forms. Whatever this number comes out to be, I'll be referring to it as the move's distribution percentage. I do realize that counting these extra forms would also mean that I should increase the denominator, but then I would have to go through and count every single Pokemon from each generation that has a different move pool within the same national dex number, and add that to all the denominators in each generation, which I am not about to do. In specific generations, some of these moves are available through transfer only, so for those moves, I will be including their distribution percentage with and without transfer moves. For the moves that are learned through breeding, some of them are listed as only having the first stage evolution being able to learn the move, when in reality, the whole evolutionary line will get the move. So I will make sure that the whole evolutionary line is counted. So overall, just know that these are more like approximations rather than exact numbers, which you'll find doesn't actually make a big difference in the points I'm trying to make. If you disagree with the method I chose, please let me know if there are any other ways that I could have measured how these Pokemon move distributions changed. Lastly, moves that were taken out of the game entirely will not count as distribution nerfs, unless that move also had other distribution nerfs between generations. With all that being said, let's look at the moves with the biggest distribution nerfs in Pokemon. First up, we have the move Scald. This move was introduced as both a level up move and a TM in Generation 5, and has been a TM in every game ever since. It is an 80 base power, 100% accurate, special attacking water type move with the secondary effect that it can cause a burn. When it was introduced in Gen 5, it had a distribution percentage of 16, and it hovered right around 16% for the next 3 generations, until Gen 9 where it dropped all the way down to 3.4%. Despite still being a TM, so many Pokemon that were previously able to learn Scald can no longer learn it in Scarlet and Violet. In fact, out of the 103 Pokemon in Scarlet and Violet that had access to Scald at any point in previous games, only 21 of them can still learn it. Even considering the Pokemon that were newly given access to Scald that weren't able to learn it before, there are only 25 Pokemon that can learn Scald in Scarlet and Violet. This has left a lot of special attacking water types with subpar stab options. Surf is good in singles, but it hits your ally in doubles. Muddy Water is the same base power as Surf, is a spread move in doubles, and doesn't hit your ally, but it doesn't even hit your opponent 15% of the time. Hydro Pump is strong but even less accurate, and Weather Ball is strong and accurate, but it needs Rain to be up to even be a water type move. Next, we have the move Power Up Punch. This move was introduced as both a level up move and a TM in Generation 6, and was never made to be a teachable move after Gen 6, with just a few Pokemon here and there learning it naturally from level up. It is a 40 base power, 100% accurate, physical fighting type move with the secondary effect that it raises the user's attack by 1 stage after use. In Gen 6, the only game that Power Up Punch was a teachable move, it had a distribution percentage of 28. In Gen 7, even though the TM was taken out of the game, it was still available as a transfer move. If we're counting the Pokemon that can learn Power Up Punch via transfer, then it had a distribution of 26%, which is not bad at all. If we are not counting this though, there were only 4 Pokemon that could learn it through level up, and none that could learn it through any other methods, resulting in a distribution of 0.5%. In Gen 8, where it was neither a teachable move nor a transfer move, it had a distribution of 0.75%, as a whopping 1 more Pokemon could learn the move through level up in the game. Finally, in Gen 9, Power Up Punch was removed entirely, resulting in a distribution of 0%. Next, we have the move Defog. This move was introduced as an HM in Generation 4, was a tutor move in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, and was a TM in BDSP. But remember, I'm not counting BDSP, but I will still mention it if it comes up. It is a perfect accuracy flying type status move that lowers the target's evasiveness by 1 stage, while also removing all entry hazards from the field and any screens from the target side of the field. Back in Gen 4 when this move was an HM, it was distributed to 13.8% of the decks. Its distribution went slightly down in Gen 5 and 6 as it was no longer a teachable move, but it was still good at 12 and 11%. Its distribution went back up in Gen 7 where it was a teachable move again, and down again in Gen 8 where it was not a teachable move, but it was still quite high, even higher than Gen 4. This includes Pokemon that can learn the move via transfer though. Not including this, it only had a distribution percentage of 6.8. Starting in Scarlet and Violet, not only is it not a teachable move, not only is it not a transfer move, but a lot of Pokemon that were previously able to learn the move from other methods are no longer able to, resulting in a distribution percentage of 5.9, the lowest the move has ever had. Out of the 103 Pokemon in Scarlet and Violet that were able to learn Defog at any point in previous games, only 40 of them can still learn it. There were only 3 Pokemon that were newly given access to Defog in Scarlet and Violet, which are the Hisuian forms of Lilligant, Braviary, and Decidueye, since Defog was not in Legends Arceus. Otherwise, no new Pokemon were given access to Defog in Scarlet and Violet. Next, we have the move Toxic. This move was introduced as a TM in Gen 1, and has been a TM in every game ever since except for Sword and Shield. It is a 90% accurate, poison-type status move that inflicts the target with bad poison, and, starting in Generation 6, has perfect accuracy if the user is poison type. In games before Gen 8, it was one of those TMs like Protect or Substitute that almost every Pokemon can learn. It had a distribution of 96% in Gens 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 97% in Gens 5, 6, and 7. In Sword and Shield, even though the TM was taken out of the game, it was still available as a transfer move, just like Power Up Punch and Defog. Counting Pokemon that could learn the move via transfer, Toxic had a distribution of 89% in Sword and Shield, which is still very high. Not counting Pokemon that can only learn Toxic via transfer, it only had a distribution percentage of 8.7. In Scarlet and Violet, this move was brought back as a TM in the Teal Mask DLC, but like Scald, so many Pokemon that were previously able to learn Toxic cannot anymore. It does have a higher distribution percentage than Sword and Shield without transfers at 12.6%, but out of the 602 Pokemon in Scarlet and Violet that had access to Toxic at any point in previous games, only 80 of them can still learn it. Next, we have the move Rock Polish. This move was introduced as both a level up move and a TM in Generation 4, where it stayed a TM all the way through BDSP. It is a rock type status move that raises the user's speed by 2 stages. In Generation 4 where this move was introduced, it had a distribution percentage of 11, and it stayed right around there for the next 3 generations. In Gen 8, it was no longer a TM, but was made available via transfer, with a distribution of 13.1%. Not counting Pokemon that can learn Rock Polish via transfer, it only had a distribution percentage of 3.3. In Gen 9, where this move is also not a TM, the distribution percentage is almost the exact same as Sword and Shield's percentage not counting transfers, at 3.4. This has left a lot of rock types without any adequate speed control, which is something they're gonna need, as they are, on average, the 3rd slowest type in the game overall, and the 2nd slowest type fully evolved. Lastly, we have the move Roost. This move was introduced as a level up move, egg move, and a teachable move in Gen 4, where it stayed a teachable move all the way through BDSP. It is a flying type status move that heals the user by half of their max HP. In Generation 4, where this move was introduced, it had a distribution of 13%, where it stayed for the next 3 generations. In Sword and Shield, where Roost was no longer made to be a teachable move, it had a distribution of 11% if you include Pokemon that can learn the move via transfer. Not counting Pokemon that can only learn Roost via transfer, it only had a distribution percentage of 5.6. In Scarlet and Violet, the distribution did go up, but not by much, at 7.8%. It seems that Game Freak really wants to nerf healing moves in general, as all of the status moves that heal the user's HP by half of their max HP, like Recover and Slack Off, had their PP nerfed too. I was also debating if I should include Synthesis, another similar self-healing move that was a teachable move in previous generations but not anymore. Synthesis actually still has pretty decent distribution though, unlike Roost, which is probably the most nerfed healing move in terms of its distribution. And those are just some of the moves with the biggest distribution nerfs in Pokemon. Let me know in the comments which ones I missed. I was also thinking about making a video covering moves with distribution buffs, so let me know if that's something you'd like to see, or even if you have some suggestions for moves I could include. Anyway, if you want to support me and my channel, the best way to do so is just by leaving a nice comment. I do genuinely read all comments by the way, and will try to respond to as many as I can. You can also click the join button and become a member, and I made the cost as low as possible at 99 cents USD. Members get a badge next to their name and early video access. Keep in mind that these videos will be releasing on my normal schedule for non-members, so please don't feel obligated at all to join unless you really want to support me and you are financially capable of doing so. Huge thanks to all my members. I really appreciate your continued support for the channel. Likes are also one of the ways in which YouTube determines if a video should be passed around to more people, so if you feel that this video deserves it, I would appreciate it. Thanks for watching.